Picture this. He's standing outside her apartment with a bag of takeout in one hand and a cheap bouquet of supermarket flowers in the other. It's late, he's tired from a long day, and part of him wants to go home, shower, and disappear into his couch. But he texted, "Have you eaten yet?" And she said, "Not really." So he drives over. He rings the bell. She opens the door, smiling but distracted, still on a call with a friend. She takes the bag, gives a quick, "You're so sweet," drops the flowers on the counter without even looking at them, and goes back to her conversation. He sits on the edge of her sofa, listening to half the story of some office drama, and quietly scrolls on his phone, pretending it doesn't sting that his little effort landed like background noise. Or he's the guy who always plans the dates. He checks the restaurant reviews, makes sure it fits her diet, looks at the commute so she won't have to drive too far after work. When they sit down, she says, "I don't know, I'm just not feeling this place," and jokes, "Next time let me choose," in a tone that tells him his attempt missed the mark. The food is fine, the night is fine, but on the way home he thinks, "Why do I bother so much if it never really hits?" Or maybe he's already in a long-term relationship. He fixes the broken shelf, books the car service, remembers her mom's birthday, handles the boring logistics so her world runs smoother. She says she wants a man who shows up, so he does. But when she talks about what she wants out loud, it sounds like some other man. More romantic, more emotionally expressive, more whatever. She talks about what he doesn't do, and the things he quietly keeps together fade into the background like the hum of a refrigerator. She's not trying to be cruel, but it lands as, "Everything I do is just expected." Here's the uncomfortable truth that almost no one says out loud. In a lot of relationships, especially in modern dating, effort is not the problem. The problem is invisible effort. It's when one person keeps investing in a relationship in ways that are taken for granted, minimized, or treated like the baseline. And when that happens long enough, love doesn't explode in a dramatic fight. It quietly erodes in the background. People like to say, if you love someone, you just keep trying. It sounds noble, but emotionally, that's not how humans work. When effort doesn't land, when it isn't seen, appreciated, or at least acknowledged, something inside starts closing. For many men, that closing doesn't look like anger right away. It looks like a softer kind of giving up. Less initiative. Fewer surprises. More neutral, "I don't mind, whatever you want." Because trying began to feel like volunteering for disappointment. The part no one warns you about is this. Love often dies, not because there was no effort, but because one person kept pouring from a cup that the other person didn't even realize they were drinking from. Slowly, without either of them announcing it, a pattern starts to form. At the beginning, he puts in effort with a kind of hopeful energy. He plans dates, offers help, checks in, suggests things to make her life easier. When she reacts with genuine appreciation, his chest opens up. He thinks, "We're building something." But every time his effort is brushed aside, criticized, or treated like bare minimum, it's like an emotional bank account withdrawal. 1 or 2 withdrawals are fine. He tells himself, maybe she had a bad day. But when it becomes a trend, he learns a quiet lesson. Trying is risky. The more I try, the more I feel unseen. This is the loop many couples get stuck in. The invisible effort loop. On the surface, it looks like this. He stops trying as much, she feels less cared for, she complains or withdraws, he hears it as, "Nothing I do is ever enough," and that makes him want to try even less. Underneath, it's a constant exchange of misread signals. She often doesn't register half the things he's doing as effort, because she has her own internal scoreboard based on what she values most. He often doesn't register her frustration as hurt, but as criticism or never satisfied. Both of them are making deposits and withdrawals into an emotional bank account using different currencies. It's very common that when effort becomes invisible, blame takes over. She thinks, "He's getting lazy. He chased me at the beginning, but now he can't be bothered." He thinks, "She doesn't appreciate anything. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't." Instead of seeing the pattern, they attack each other's personality. "You're selfish, you're dramatic, you're ungrateful, you're cold." The relationship quietly shifts from 2 people on the same side to 2 people defending themselves in a courtroom that no one else can see. But this loop is rarely just about he's a bad guy, or she's impossible to please. Behind it, there are old habits, family stories, and emotional survival skills that started long before they met. Maybe he grew up in a home where effort was only noticed when something went wrong. If he brought home good grades, the response was, "That's what you're supposed to do." If he failed, he got lectured or shamed. So he learned that being seen is dangerous and that doing well is just normal, not something people thank you for. Later, when his girlfriend or wife shrugs off his effort as obvious or criticizes the way he does it, it touches that same old bruise, "I'm only visible when I fail." Maybe she grew up in a home where words and emotional presence mattered more than practical help. Her dad might have worked very hard, but was never really there. So for her, the real effort is not washing the dishes or paying the bills. It's asking about her feelings, remembering what she said last week, putting down the phone to really listen. When he runs around doing things but stays emotionally distant, she doesn't register those deeds as love. She experiences them as tasks. In her inner world, she still feels alone, so she talks about needing more, and he hears, "Everything you do is invisible." On top of this, men and women are often speaking different emotional languages about effort. Many men show love through action, fixing, solving, providing, organizing, taking initiative. Many women show love through connection, talking, checking in, noticing subtle shifts, remembering details. Neither is right or wrong. But if no one explains the translation, both sides feel cheated. He thinks, "I'm showing up in the way I know how," and she thinks, "He's physically here but emotionally absent." She remembers her last 5 emotional disappointments in full color. He remembers his last 5 practical efforts that seem to vanish into thin air. Defense mechanisms then pile on top. He starts to numb himself, become chill, make fewer suggestions, avoid vulnerability so he doesn't hear, "Why would you do that? That's not what I meant." She starts to keep a quiet scoreboard in her head, noticing every time he didn't step in, every moment she felt alone, every missed opportunity to show care. She might start joking in a sharp way, making little jabs about his bare minimum, not realizing they land like tiny knives. So what you see from the outside is simple. A man who used to try slowly becoming more passive, and a woman who used to be happy about his efforts slowly becoming more critical. But just beneath that is a more complex truth. 2 people using different yardsticks to measure effort, shaped by their past, their fears, and the emotional language they were never taught to speak out loud. The invisible effort loop isn't about one villain and one victim. It's a system where love gets lost in translation, and no one ever pauses to name what's really happening. From his side, it often starts very simply. In the beginning, he enjoys putting in effort. He picks the restaurant, chooses the movie, sends the good morning texts, drives across town to see her for just a couple of hours. He cancels plans to be there when she has a bad day. At that stage, each effort feels like a seed he's planting in something that might grow. He sees her eyes light up, hears the way she tells her friends, "He did this for me," and he thinks, "Okay, this is what being a good partner is. I can do this." What most people don't realize is that for many men, effort is closely tied to identity. It's not just, "I did something nice." It's, "This is who I am. I'm someone who shows up." When his effort is received with appreciation, his sense of self as a partner becomes stronger. He feels useful, important, chosen. When his effort is ignored, criticized, or measured against some invisible standard he didn't even know existed, it isn't only disappointing. It quietly attacks his sense of worth. Inside, he might be thinking things he never says out loud. "I want to make her life easier, but I don't know what actually lands for her. If I ask, I feel stupid, like I should already know. If I guess and get it wrong, I feel like an idiot." After enough failed attempts, effort stops feeling like love and starts feeling like a test he is destined to fail. And most men, when they feel like they are constantly failing in love, don't slam their fists and shout about it all the time. They shrink. They become more careful, more neutral, more distant. Imagine a Saturday. He wakes up early to take his car for maintenance so that when he picks her up that evening, everything will be smooth. He texts her, "I'll swing by around 7, is that okay?" She says, "Yeah, fine." At 7 he shows up, car clean, route checked, reservation confirmed. She gets in and sighs, "I'm so tired. I wish you would sometimes just surprise me with something different." He's confused. In his head, this whole plan was an effort. To her, it felt like autopilot. He doesn't argue, but inside he's thinking, "I tried. It doesn't count." Again. Men are often afraid of something. Very specific here. The fear of being seen as not enough no matter what they do. It's not just fear of failure in the task. It's fear of being judged as a failure of a man. That's why criticism about effort cuts so deeply. When she says, "You didn't really think this through," he doesn't just hear feedback about a restaurant or a gift. He hears, "You're careless, you don't really care about me." When she compares him to an ex or to someone else's boyfriend who always remembers the little things, he hears, "You're fundamentally less than." There is also a quiet fear of emotional exposure. If he says, "It hurt when you didn't seem to care about what I did," he risks being told, "Oh my God, why are you so sensitive?" Or, "I never asked you to do that." So instead of opening up, he internalizes the lesson. Don't talk about the hurt, just reduce the risk. In practice, that means less initiative, fewer surprises, more staying in his lane. He starts to think, if you're going to criticize my effort, I'll just stick to the basics. Pay my share, show up, don't rock the boat. From the outside, that can look like loss of interest or laziness. From the inside, it's often self-protection. He might still care deeply. He might still love her. But he's trying to survive emotionally by lowering the possibility of rejection. Every time he thought, maybe I'll plan something special, and then the last thing he did was shrugged off, he put another little brick in the wall between them. Picture them on the couch. She's scrolling her phone, half watching a show. He thinks about asking, "Do you want to go away for a weekend sometime? Just the two of us." Then he remembers the last time he suggested a trip, and she focused mainly on what was inconvenient about it. He doesn't want to risk hearing, "You never think about my schedule," again. So instead he says nothing, opens his own phone, and scrolls too. The idea dies before it's even spoken. She feels he never initiates anything special anymore. He feels he's already been told, in 100 small ways, that his ideas don't land. There's also the layer of pride and the need for respect. Many men were raised with the message that their value is measured by what they provide, what they fix, how reliable they are. When their effort is taken for granted, they feel disrespected, even if they don't use that word. Respect, for many men, doesn't just mean being obeyed. It means being recognized as someone whose contributions matter. A simple, "I see what you did, and it matters to me," can bring warmth back into his chest. The absence of that, over time, leaves him numb. He might remember the time she laughed at his attempts because they were not her style. The sweater he picked that wasn't her color. The restaurant that was too noisy. The surprise visit that came when she was in a bad mood. None of those moments are evil on their own. She might have been completely honest, without any intention to hurt. But he strings them together in his memory like little beads of failure. And because he's not encouraged to talk about his emotional perception of those things, they just sit in his nervous system as proof. I should stop trying so hard. It just opens me up to disappointment. The tragedy is that he often hides all of this behind a calm face. He cracks jokes, makes everything no big deal, shrugs off his own hurt. He says things like, "It's fine, don't worry about it," when it's not actually fine. He tells himself, real men don't complain about not being appreciated. So instead of complaining, he gradually withdraws. First emotionally, then physically. Shorter messages. Less enthusiasm. Less eye contact. Less future planning. Nothing dramatic enough to be called breaking up, but strong enough that she can feel him slipping away. Inside him, the story sounds like, "I loved you loudly at first. Then I learned it was safer to love you quietly. Now I'm wondering if it's safer not to love you at all." He doesn't wake up one morning and decide to stop caring. It's more like standing in the ocean and realizing, little by little, that the tide has carried him far from shore. He looks back and the distance shocks even him. When his effort becomes invisible, part of his love doesn't die immediately. It goes into hiding. It waits to see if anyone will come looking for it, if anyone will say, I know you tried. I know you care. I see the way you've been showing up, even if it wasn't always my preferred way. When that recognition doesn't come, what fades is not just his motivation, but his belief that this relationship is a place where his heart is safe to be invested. From her side, it can look completely different. She doesn't see the invisible scoreboard in his head where every effort that went unnoticed became proof that trying is dangerous. She sees what's in front of her now, a man who used to show up with energy and ideas, and who now seems to just exist next to her. In her body, that shift feels like rejection. She remembers the early days when he texted first, asked questions, made her feel like she was the center of his attention. When that dies down, she doesn't automatically think, his fear of failure has been activated. She thinks, I was special. Now I'm not. So when he stops suggesting dates, she doesn't know that he's internally reviewing a list of past, failed attempts. She just feels abandoned. When he switches from thoughtful surprises to safe, practical routines, she doesn't know that he's choosing what feels least risky. She feels like she's living with a roommate who handles logistics instead of a partner who is actively choosing her. To her, the emotional signal is, you're not worth the extra mile anymore. When he goes quiet after she reacts critically, the translation in her head is often, he doesn't care enough to talk about it. But in his inner language, that silence often means, I'm trying not to make this worse. I'm afraid that if I say what I really feel, I'll be attacked or dismissed. His shutdown is a kind of emotional fire exit. He runs there when he feels there is no safe way to stay in the conversation. To her, silence feels like emotional abandonment. To him, it feels like the only available self-defense. When she says, you never do anything special anymore, she's trying to name her hunger. She misses feeling chosen, prioritized, surprised. It's her way of saying, I miss the version of us where we were awake and alive. But he might hear it in a completely different language. You're a failure. Everything you do now is worthless. The more she points out what's missing, the more his nervous system hears, you're not enough. That's when his love doesn't necessarily disappear, but it goes underground, where it feels safer. Here's another translation that often gets lost. Many men express love through service and problem solving. When he drives over late at night because her tire is flat, when he spends his weekend fixing her Wi-Fi, when he double-checks her flight times and sends them to her again so she doesn't miss the plane, he's not just doing chores. He's saying, you matter to me. Your life matters to me. I want to be the person who has your back. If she grew up in a world where real love meant long, deep talks, handwritten letters, or big romantic gestures, she might not fully recognize these actions as the emotional currency they are for him. So when she casually says, well, that's just what a decent boyfriend should do, it's easy for her to feel she's stating a fact. But in his language, that can sound like, your love language is nothing special. Your way of loving doesn't count. It's like he's been paying into their shared emotional bank account with the only currency he really knows, and someone hangs a sign on the wall saying, this currency has little value here. After a while, he stops wanting to spend. The same goes for his need for appreciation. Many women hear appreciation and think, do I really have to clap for basic adult behavior? That's understandable. No one should have to throw a parade because someone did the dishes once. But appreciation doesn't mean worship. It means acknowledgement. For a lot of men, a simple, thank you for taking care of that, I noticed, isn't about ego. It's about feeling like their presence in the relationship actually makes a difference. Without that, they start to feel interchangeable, like any other pair of hands could replace them. On the other side, when he withdraws his visible effort, she often responds with protest. Sometimes that protest is loud. Arguments, accusations, emotional outbursts. Sometimes it's quieter. Sharp jokes, sarcasm, distance. Underneath, the message is, I feel you pulling away and it scares me. But he rarely hears it that way. He hears, you're failing again. So he retreats further. She increases the volume, hoping he'll finally hear, I miss you. He hears, you're never enough, and his system shuts down even more. Two different languages, one painful loop. If you're a woman watching this, there's a translation here that might hurt a little, but it's important. When you say, you never do anything for me, and deep down you mean, I miss the extra spark, the effort, the romance, he might not fight you on it. He might just go quiet and accept that sentence as a global truth about himself. In his inner world, that can become a core belief: no matter what I do, it will never count. That belief is like acid on motivation. It doesn't make him want to try harder. It makes him want to give up. When he says, "I don't know what you want," it can sound like laziness or an excuse. Sometimes, yes, it's avoidance. But very often, it's also literal confusion. The things he thought were loving didn't land. The things she says she wants feel vague or constantly shifting. He feels like he's playing a game where the rules change every week. Instead of admitting how lost he feels, which would make him vulnerable, he folds his cards and plays safe. Minimal effort, minimal risk, minimal exposure. If you're a man watching this, there's a translation you need too. When she pokes at your effort, when she says, "Other guys do X," when she seems to only notice what's missing, it's easy to hear it as pure attack. But often, it's desperation. She's trying, in a clumsy way, to wake you up. To say, "I can feel your love shrinking and I don't know how to pull you back." That doesn't make the criticism healthy or okay. But understanding that her anger often sits on top of grief can change how you respond to it. In many relationships, both sides are hurting because effort doesn't match expectation. He thinks, "If I'm here, if I'm loyal, if I handle things, that should be enough." She thinks, "If you loved me, you'd still show it in ways that make me feel chosen, not just maintained." Neither of them is the villain for having those needs. The damage comes when they keep demanding in their own language and refusing to hear the other. So here is the simple translation at the core of this video. When his effort becomes invisible, his love often doesn't vanish overnight. It changes shape. It hides behind routine, behind jokes, behind a tired, whatever you want. It is there, but it's scared. It's waiting to see if the way he loves can be seen as love, not just as basic maintenance. When she feels abandoned by his fading initiative, she's not just being dramatic. She's mourning a sense of being cherished. Two people, one story, told in two emotional languages that no one ever taught them how to read. Here are some harsh truths that many couples only discover when it's almost too late. The first one is this: effort without acknowledgement does not last. You can tell yourself, "If he really loved me, he'd keep trying anyway," or "If she really cared, she'd just be grateful." But that's not how human motivation works. People are not machines. When effort is met again and again with criticism, indifference, or a moving target of expectations, love starts to protect itself by doing less. That doesn't make it noble, but it does make it human. If you expect your partner to keep pouring from an empty cup forever, you are not asking for love, you are asking for self-erasure. The second harsh truth is that many people want the benefits of a devoted partner without doing the emotional work of making that devotion feel safe. It's easy to say, "I want someone who always shows up for me," and much harder to ask, "Do I create an environment where showing up feels appreciated, or does it feel like walking into an exam?" If your partner constantly feels like whatever they do will be graded, compared, or brushed aside, you might be unintentionally training them to stop trying. You may not mean to punish effort, but the impact is the same. Another uncomfortable truth: some men hide behind confusion as an excuse for not growing. Many men genuinely don't understand what their partner needs emotionally. But at some point, "I don't know what you want" turns into, "I'm not willing to do the work to find out." When he refuses to ask questions, refuses to listen without getting defensive, refuses to change even small things he clearly knows matter to her, his withdrawal is no longer just about fear. It becomes a choice to stay emotionally lazy. On the other hand, some women hide behind high standards as a way to avoid vulnerability. Wanting to be cherished is not the problem. Expecting mind reading, rejecting any imperfect attempt, and constantly comparing your partner to an imaginary man who exists only on social media, that's something else. If no effort ever qualifies as enough, unless it matches your internal script perfectly, then you're not just asking for love, you're demanding control. Underneath that often lives a deep fear of being disappointed, of needing someone and finding out they can't actually meet you. So you preemptively invalidate their efforts, so you never have to admit that you are scared. There is also the harsh truth of quiet revenge and scorekeeping. When people feel their effort has been ignored or mocked for long enough, They often start doing the bare minimum on purpose. They won't say, "I'm punishing you," but they begin to think, "Why should I go out of my way when you clearly don't care?" At the same time, they keep a mental spreadsheet of who did what, who tried more, who failed more. Scorekeeping is what people do when they feel unseen and unsafe. It's a way of saying, "Look, I really am carrying more." But if you live in that spreadsheet, you will eventually turn your partner into an opponent instead of a human being. You will only see what they fail to do, not what they are shyly, clumsily trying to do in their own language. We also need to face this. Not every withdrawal is just a misunderstanding. Sometimes his love fades because, deep down, he has stopped respecting the person he's with. Maybe he feels constantly belittled, judged, told that his way of loving is wrong. Maybe he has reached a point where he would rather protect his pride than fight for the relationship. Similarly, sometimes her criticism and distance come from genuine exhaustion. She has carried emotional weight for so long that she cannot keep pretending she's fine with crumbs of effort. In these cases, both people have to be brutally honest. Are we still willing to work on this, or are we just slowly breaking each other while pretending we're trying? Finally, there is the hardest truth of all. Love is not enough if both people refuse to grow. You can care about each other and still destroy the relationship by clinging to your defenses, your pride, your old stories. If he insists, "This is just how I am, take it or leave it," and she insists, "If you loved me, you'd magically know what I need," they are both choosing their comfort zone over the relationship. Effort will keep fading, resentment will keep rising, and one day they will look back and call it falling out of love, when, in reality, they slowly starve that love of oxygen. The warm side of these harsh truths is this. Once you see the pattern clearly, you can stop treating each other like enemies and start treating the problem as the enemy. His invisible effort, her invisible hurt, his fear of criticism, her fear of being unchosen. None of these make either of them a monster. They make them human. But humanity is not an excuse to stay stuck. It's an invitation to take responsibility, to say, "Yes, my reactions make sense, but they are also hurting us. What can I do differently now?" So if you're listening to this and you recognize the pattern, the question becomes, what now? How do you bring his effort back into the light without turning your relationship into a constant performance review? How do you make love feel safe enough again that both people actually want to try, not just out of duty, but out of genuine desire? One shift that often helps is a small daily ritual of acknowledgement. Nothing dramatic, just a habit of saying, "I saw that," once a day. It might be a message at night, "Thank you for handling dinner, I know you were tired." It might be in the car, "I noticed you drove all the way here just to see me, that means something to me." The point isn't to give gold stars for basic tasks. The point is to send a clear signal, "Your effort is not invisible to me." For many men, that alone wakes up parts of their heart that have been sleeping. For many women, hearing "thank you" for their emotional labor, planning, remembering, checking in, softens the edge of their resentment. Another practical shift is to talk openly about what counts as effort in each other's language. Most couples never have that conversation. You can make it concrete. Sit down during a calm moment and say, "When you do X, it feels like love to me. When you do Y, I barely notice it, even though I know it matters to you." Then listen without arguing. He might say, "When you hug me and say you're proud of me, that lands deeply." She might say, "When you put your phone away and ask how I really am, that's when I feel loved." You start building a shared map instead of wandering blind in each other's emotional forests. For men, one powerful move is to be honest about the point where your efforts started to fade. Not as a weapon, not as a guilt trip, but as information. You might say, "There was a time I stopped planning things because it always felt like I got it wrong. I didn't know how to tell you that without sounding weak, so I just did less." That's vulnerable, but it gives her a chance she never had before, to understand what was actually happening inside you instead of guessing. It tells her, "My silence was fear, not lack of love." For women, a key shift is to separate disappointment from contempt. You're allowed to want more than basic functioning. But when disappointment turns into a constant tone of, "You're never enough," it becomes poison. Instead of, "You never do anything for me anymore," try, "When we don't have intentional time together, I feel unimportant. Can we choose one thing this week that feels special for both of us?" It's not about sugarcoating your needs. It's about naming them in a way that invites effort instead of shaming it into hiding. Another step is to create one no fixing, just listening conversation each week. Pick a time with no phones, even if it's just 20 minutes. One person talks about what's been heavy on their mind, including the things that feel unfair or lonely in the relationship. The other person's only job is to listen, reflect back what they heard, and ask a couple of curious questions. No defending, no cross-examining. Then you switch. This doesn't solve everything, but it builds something effort desperately needs to survive: emotional safety. It also helps to agree on small shared experiments rather than grand promises. Instead of, "You need to change everything," think, "For the next 2 weeks, let's try this one thing." Maybe it's, "We each name one effort the other made that we appreciated every night before bed." Maybe it's, "Once a week, he plans something small, and she resists the urge to critique the details and focuses on the intention." Maybe it's, "She will ask directly for one specific thing, and he will try to act on it without sulking." Experiments lower the pressure. They say, "We're learning, not you're on trial." Finally, there's the quiet inner work each person has to do alone. For him, that might mean asking, "Where did I learn that it's safer to shut down than to say I'm hurt?" And, "How can I show up as someone who can hear feedback without collapsing?" For her, it might mean asking, "Where did I learn that if I don't push, no one will really choose me?" And, "How can I honor my needs without constantly putting you in the role of the failing student?" These are not questions you answer in one afternoon. They guide how you show up over time. The way out of this dynamic is not one-sided. He doesn't have to become a mind reader, and she doesn't have to praise every tiny thing he does. But both have to move. He has to risk bringing his effort back into the light, even if he's scared. She has to risk softening, even if she's tired of being disappointed. Together, they have to decide that invisible effort and silent withdrawal are not going to be the quiet script running their relationship anymore. Here is a quiet truth. Most of us were never given a manual for love. We learned from half-watched movies, tired adults, and our own guesswork. No one sat us down and said, "This is how you see your partner's effort. This is how you say what you need without crushing their spirit. This is how you keep love alive when work, stress, and old wounds crowd the room." So when it starts to hurt, we don't think, "We're untrained." We think, "You don't care enough," or "Maybe we were never meant to last." If his effort has become invisible and his love has started to fade, it doesn't automatically mean there is no way back. It usually means too many small hurts piled up without words, too many misread signals, too many evenings where both of you felt alone but pretended everything was fine. Maybe you recognize yourself as the man who slowly gave less because every attempt felt like a test you were failing. Maybe you recognize yourself as the woman who asked for more and, without meaning to, made him feel like nothing he did would ever be enough. Maybe you see that you have both been begging, in different languages, for the same thing: "Please see me. Please let my effort matter here." There is hope when two people are still willing to be honest and kind at the same time. Hope does not mean ignoring the damage. It means being able to say, "We have both made each other's love feel small. We have both defended ourselves instead of protecting us. But I am still willing to learn you, and I'm willing to let you learn me." It means being willing to hear that your partner's experience is real, even when it doesn't match your memory. It means risking small efforts again: an invitation, a message, a soft touch, paired with simple acknowledgments. "I noticed. That helped. Thank you." And it also means knowing your line. If what you meet is not confusion or clumsiness but cruelty, manipulation, or abuse, then the bravest thing you can do is not to try harder, but to get safe. But if what you have is two imperfect humans who still care, tired, proud, scared, but not done, then there is room to rebuild something more honest than the early fantasy ever was. It will not look like the first weeks of Butterflies. It might look like two people sitting at a kitchen table, awkwardly telling the truth about where their love started to hide, and choosing, bit by bit, to bring it back into the light. If you heard yourself in this story, whether as the one whose effort faded, or the one who felt abandoned by that fading, maybe this is your invitation. Not to fix everything tonight, not to perform for anyone watching from the outside, but to start with one real conversation, one genuine "I see you," one small step toward speaking openly, even if your voice shakes. Because that is often the moment when love stops slowly dying in the dark and finally has a real chance to grow up.